It's October of 2017 and Kim Cattrall is angry. Angry that all of the blame for the third Sex and the City movie not moving forward was being placed on her shoulders. She had been inundated with bad press and disappointed fans since news broke a month earlier. So tonight, instead of pretending everything was fine, she was going to tell her truth. So when TV host Piers Morgan asked her about the Sex and the City drama, she answered more frankly than she ever had before.
This is really where I take to task the people from Sex and the City, and specifically Sarah Jessica Parker, is that I think she could have been nicer.
Reports of an on-set clashing between Kim and Sarah Jessica Parker had plagued Sex and the City for years, but this was the first time that either Kim or Sarah had publicly confirmed once and for all that they had beef. Welcome to Stale Beef, where I, Jaded Win, resurrect dead old celebrity beef for your entertainment. With the recent announcement that Kim Cattrall will be making a cameo on Sex and the City spin-off and Just Like That for Season 2, this beef is still moving. To understand Beeful Beef, we must go back all the way to 1997 when show creator Darren Star was casting Sex and the City. Darren had worked with writer Candace Bushnell to adapt her Sex and the City column and book into a TV pilot for HBO. While working on the script, he had someone in mind to play Carrie Bradshaw, an actress named Sarah Jessica Parker. So Darren met with Sarah on the Upper East Side in March of 1997 to try to convince her to take the role. Although the script intrigued Sarah, Sarah was very hesitant to commit to a TV role, because back then there was a much bigger divide between TV actors and movie actors, and Sarah was still having success in theatrically released movies such as Tim Burton's Mars Attack.
We're speaking with Professor Donald Kessler of Astronautics
And The First Wives Club.
Stop. What's the matter, Morty? Can't you buy her a whole dress?
Stop it. Brenda, why don't you try these on in your tight?
She was also concerned over the content of the show, namely the nudity. But Sarah's manager, Kevin Huvane, was the one that convinced Sarah to do the show, and he negotiated a no nudity clause for her contract, among many other stipulations that will become important later. The rest of the cast would be faithfully rounded out by Kristen Davis, Cynthia Nixon, and of course, Kim Cattrall. At the time, Kristen was most known for her stint on Melrose Place, where she played Brooke Armstrong for 32 episodes.
Only you could pull off something this wild.
Those were my personal files.
Oh! I'm willing to respect that if you'll just let go of me.
Cynthia was a respected theater actress, but was not particularly well known on screen yet, although she did work with Meryl Streep in Marvin's Room, where she was credited as retirement home director.
This is our state-of-the-art physical therapy room. Right over here.
I wouldn't mind living here. This is great.
Kim Cattrall had the most credits to her name, but her career highlights had been in the 80s, and by the late 90s she was doing mostly TV and C-list movies.
Sweet. My baby. It's all right. He will never go near you again. Oh. Why didn't you kill it then? Why?
Even then, Kim initially turned down the pilot as she did not want to play another sexualized character, but was finally convinced by Darren Star's belief that the show could be something special. Kim and Darren Star remained pretty close throughout the run of the show. So on a Tuesday in June of 1997, the four ladies came together to film the pilot episode of Sex and the City in Manhattan, not knowing that they would create a show that would become a cultural phenomenon. Sex and the City would premiere on June 1998, and over its 6 seasons would earn 54 Emmy nominations and 7 wins, and 24 Golden Globe nominations and 8 wins. And on February 22nd, 2002, over 10 million viewers would tune in to watch the series finale on HBO. With its frank discussions of sex between women, the show would cause shockwaves in television and in society that forever changed public discourse. Women, and some men, would define themselves as either a Carrie, a Charlotte, a Miranda, or a Samantha, or some combination of the four. I'm a Miranda with a little bit of a Samantha. And best believe you have made a big impact on pop culture when you get name checked in a Jay-Z and Beyonce song. The only time we don't speak is during Sex in the City. She gets carry fever, but soon as the show's over, she's right back to being my soldier. During the run of the show, there were reports of on-set tension, but nothing was substantiated by the cast. When Kim won a Golden Globe in 2003, she had only kind words for her co-stars.
And 3 women who have literally changed my life. The great Sarah Jessica Parker, the wonderful Kristen Davis, and my heart, Cynthia Nixon.
Eyebrows were raised though when the cast attended the 2004 Emmys for the last season of Sex and the City, and Kim did not walk the red carpet nor sit with her co-stars, but opted to sit with creator Darren Star instead. That very same year, Kim went on Friday Night with Jonathan Ross, and when asked why the show ended, she answered, quote, "I felt after 6 years it was time for all of us to participate in the financial windfall of Sex and the City. When they didn't seem keen on that, I thought it was time to move on." Kim's answer reveals that one of the key factors in the feud is a pay dispute. Since the show had been built around Sarah to begin with back in 1997, and at the time she had a bigger career than the other ladies, she had negotiated a much better deal than the other 3 women. On top of that, Sarah became a producer of the show starting with the 2nd season, which of course also added to the power dynamics, right? But as the show went on, Kim felt that her character was more popular and that her pay should reflect that. Allegedly, this led to tense salary negotiation cycles that occurred before every season of the show that carried over to the movies. Rumors swirled that Kim's negotiations delayed the first Sex and the City movie, which came out 4 years after the end of the show in 2008. Despite any drama, the movie was a commercial success, grossing $415 million worldwide from a $65 million budget. Both Sarah and Kim did not let on that there was any tension brewing between them during this period. Speaking to Elle magazine in 2009, Sarah said, quote, "I don't think anybody wants to believe that I love Kim. I adore her. I wouldn't have done the movie without her, didn't, and wouldn't," end quote. Kim also denied feud rumors in an interview with Daily Mail in 2010, quote, "I think Sarah was right. People don't want to believe that we get on. They have too much invested in the idea of 2 strong, successful women fighting with each other. It makes for juicy gossip and copy. The truth of us being friends and getting along and happily doing our jobs together is nowhere near as newsworthy. I think Sarah is fantastic. She is a born leader and she guides the crew and the cast in such a strong but gentle way," end quote. That same year, Sex and the City was released, and although also financially successful, this movie was not as well received by both critics and fans. And for good reason. It sucked. During this period, all seemed well until 2017, when the beef really started cooking. On September 28, 2017, Sarah Jessica Parker attended the New York Ballet Gala and dropped a bombshell.
No, it's not halted, it's over. No, yeah.
Are you disappointed?
We're not doing it. Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm disappointed. We had this beautiful, funny, heartbreaking, joyful, very relatable script and story, and I think it's not just disappointing that we don't get to tell that story and, have that experience. I think more so it's, I think for that audience that has been so vocal about wanting a 3rd movie,
On the same day, the Daily Mail pointed the finger as to why the 3rd movie would not happen towards Kim Cattrall. According to their unnamed sources, quote, "The only reason this movie isn't being made is because of Kim Cattrall. Everyone was looking forward to making this movie, but Kim made it all about her, always playing the victim." The quote continues, "Kim had the audacity to tell Warner Brothers that she would only do this if they made other movies she had in development. Ridiculous. Who does she think she is, George Clooney?" End quote. The Daily Mail also reported another source added, quote, "This franchise made her, and let's be frank, it's all she is really known for. Cast and crew don't just show up to make a movie, they have to rearrange their lives. People turn down other jobs, were in the process of relocating to New York, but she kept stalling, and she was always unavailable when answers from her were needed." End quote. The next day, Kim tweeted a response. "Woke to a @MailOnline poop storm. The only demand I ever made was that I didn't want to do a third film, and that was back in 2016. While Cynthia Nixon stayed silent, Kristen Davis did post on Instagram to confirm the third movie was not happening, and she expressed that, quote, "It is deeply frustrating not to be able to share that chapter with all of you." End quote. In addition, the actor who played Stanford Blatch, Willie Garson, who sadly passed away in 2021 from pancreatic cancer, also tweeted the following, quote, "Disappointed for all crew holding on for negotiations to conclude for their jobs, and of course for the fans. Leave it at that. #truth." End quote. This brings us back to that night in October where Kim went on Piers Morgan's Life Stories and confirmed her disappointment in Sarah Jessica Parker. She also made headlines by stating this.
Have you never really got on?
We've never been friends. We've been colleagues.
And also that she felt her relationship with the show was toxic.
It feels like a toxic relationship.
Well, they're all basically blaming you for ruining everybody's fun.
One person who didn't like Kim's statement was Willie Garson, who tweeted very shortly after that, quote, "Dear fans, because I'm toxic, I'm going to negotiate a contract for 6 months, not come to terms, then say I never wanted to do it anyway." End quote. A few months later, in the beginning of 2018, Sarah Jessica Parker responded to Kim when she was on Andy Cohen's show.
Kim Cattrall telling Piers Morgan that you were never friends, just colleagues.
Just heartbroken. I mean, that whole week, you and I spoke about it endlessly, because I was just, I don't know, I found it very upsetting, because that's not the way I recall our experience, so.
Shortly after that, tragedy struck for Kim Cattrall with her brother's passing, with Kim announcing it on Instagram on February 4th. Cynthia Nixon, as well as Sarah Jessica Parker, commented on Kim's post with condolence messages. Sarah Jessica Parker was at a loss as to what to do. She had never been close with Kim Cattrall, but they were colleagues that worked well together and always showed respect towards each other in the media. But in the last few months, she was being bombarded with questions about Kim and accusations of mean girl behavior, ever since Kim had publicly called Sarah out on television. Now Kim was going through a family tragedy, and Sarah had reached out privately with no response. At this point, she could say nothing publicly and be accused of being uncaring and cruel, or she could post a message and be accused of being fake. Pulling up her Instagram, Sarah decided to make a public message of condolence on Kim's Instagram. She expected fans and haters to have their opinions, but she did not expect what happened next. A few days later, Kim responded with another Instagram post that read, quote, "I don't need your love or support at this tragic time, at Sarah Jessica Parker." The caption under read, "My mom asked me today, when will that Sarah Jessica Parker, that hypocrite, leave you alone? Your continuous reaching out is a painful reminder of how cruel you really were then and now. Let me make this very clear. If I haven't already, you are not my family. You are not my friend. So I'm writing to tell you one last time to stop exploiting our tragedy in order to restore your nice girl persona." Whew. Publicly, Sarah did not respond directly to Kim's message. Instead, she continued to deny the feud whenever asked about the situation. She told Vulture, quote, "I'd just like to remind everybody that there is no catfight. I have never uttered an unkind, unsupportive, unfriendly word, so I would love to redefine it. I've always held Kim's work in high regard and always appreciative of her contributions. If she chooses not to do the third movie, there's not a lot I can do to change her mind, and we must respect it." End quote. A few months later, Kristen Davis flamed the fans a little when she posted a throwback photo on her Instagram of her, Cynthia, and Sarah Jessica Parker sitting at the 2004 Emmys. If you recall, Kim was not in the photo as she sat separately with creator Darren Star. Around the same time, actor Jason Lewis, who played Kim's love interest Smith on the show, was interviewed and confirmed which team he was firmly on.
Okay, what's your thought about it?
If you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all.
All right, but would that be directed in any particular direction?
Listen, I would have to say that Sarah was always just so lovely and such a consummate professional, and I think that people should remember their graciousness and the things that have been given to them. And I'm going to stop there.
All right,
I got nothing good to say.
All right, I'll ask you one thing, and people do this sometimes. If there's a Team Sarah or a Team Kim, my sense is you're on Team Sarah.
I might just have to say yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. What a gracious lady. She was always so good to me. So.
All right. And were other people not as good to you?
Sarah was amazing.
But it was in November of 2018 that the most different perspectives about the situation was revealed through the Origins with James Andrew Miller podcast, where they did a deep dive on the Sex and the City franchise and interviewed many key players, including author Candace Bushnell, creator Darren Star, showrunner Michael Patrick King, co-producer Amy Harris, as well as the main cast members, except Kim Cattrall, who declined to participate. On the podcast, Sarah Jessica Parker reiterated her previous statements.
We negotiated in good faith. You know, we wanted it to be a place that felt good to everybody. And if we were aware that contractually there were any issues, we hoped that they were settled because we wanted Kim to be there. Michael and I worked all summer. I had many conversations with her manager where, you know, I was told, well, she'd love to hear from you. I emailed her. I tried to reach out to her and say, like, we want you part of this. You're an integral part. Of course you are. You know, I hope when you read this script, you'll see the beauty, the joy, the heartbreak in it that I see, that we have seen. But I can't force her to see it. But we did negotiate through the process, and ultimately the studio said we can't meet those asks of hers. We're not able to do it. We don't see, the economics don't make sense for us. So then it's over. But that's not a character assassination. That's just the way business works. I'm not in a cat fight with anybody. I've not publicly ever said anything unfriendly, unappreciative about Kim, because that's not how I feel about her.
Willie Garson expressed his disappointment.
My feeling was that things were said that were just not true. And you can't live in someone else's body, so you don't know what they're feeling and how they're processing something. But we were there, and I'm confused as to one person's take on it when it's one person. And there's 200 other people there. So that to me is confusing, and I have sorrow from it. The one person in question says that we were never friends, or that, you know, it's all been a misery. That was not my experience, and I feel, I don't want to say insulted by it, but I feel sad.
Willie also addressed why cast members reached out over social media to Kim.
There comes a point when, if there's no other way, if the person is not responding to you in any other forum, either by email or phone. And so this is a way that I'm going to reach out, because this is the only way they're going to get it, apparently, because I'm not getting responded to by email or phone call or anything. And I want you to know, and I want the world to know, that we're all thinking about you and we care about you.
And you had tried to do that, is that what you're saying?
Well, I've tried to do that. I know that other people have tried to do that, and, you know, I can't speak for anyone else, but I know that Sarah Jessica had tried. To attack someone for doing that when you're not responding to them elsewhere is a tough thing. I don't know the answer to that.
When the interviewer identified Kristen Davis as Switzerland, aka neutral, here is her response.
Because I do think of you as Switzerland.
That's so funny. You know, in some ways, Cynthia's Switzerland. I shouldn't even be saying that. I'm not totally Switzerland. I'm not exactly Charlotte. You know, I have probably more opinions or whatever. I don't know. Charlotte has a really strong opinion, so I don't know why I'm saying that. I think Cynthia is more of a Switzerland, number one. Number two, I think Cynthia is better at navigating. I have a lot of emotions. I'm the emotional one. Do you remember the scene when Carrie, I almost said Sarah, when Carrie's gonna go to Paris and we're at the dinner table, we're at the posh restaurant, and I'm just like crying? That's me. That would be me, right? I'm emotional. So I'm not the best person to be mending the things or whatever, though I could try to mend it from love and emotion. If I thought it would work in life, I would do it.
Co-producer Amy Harris expressed anger at Kim for lashing out.
I can't imagine what Kim was going through, having lost her brother, and the rage and anger she felt about that. And I understand wanting to lash out at someone. To lash out at Sarah Jessica, to me, seemed unbelievably unfair, to the point where I felt super angry, because were they the closest of friends all the time? No. Did they have a million laughs together throughout 7 or 8 years of filming? Yes. I think deep down at the bottom of it, why Kim said no wasn't because of the women. I think it was really deep down, she wanted to move on, and that's a completely legitimate choice, to want to go on and do something else. What isn't the right choice is to claim that that choice is because these other people were monsters, which they simply were not. If she had just said from the beginning, if you're doing this movie, figure out a way to do it where I'm not written into it because I don't want to come back, I think that's legitimate. Lots of people make that decision in their lives, that they're done, and that's fine. But I think it was that it seemed like things were really moving forward, and then suddenly the rug was sort of pulled out, and it was, the reasons for it didn't seem to match what actually happened for me, in my mind. And look, there's a lot of stuff out there now like, oh, well, these people were super close with Sarah Jessica. Well, I met every single one of those people on the same day, basically. So I had no horse in the race, dog in the fight. I met all 4 women basically within the same few weeks when we started to shoot the show. And there were people who inspired me and made me want to be the kind of female producer and woman on a set that, you know, I hope I have become. And those people have really stayed in my life because of it. Look, Sarah Jessica was #1 on the call sheet, and I think she almost hugged every single person on the crew every night and thanked them for their hard work. That kind of stuff for me really stuck.
Writer, producer, and showrunner Michael Patrick King believes Kim was never fully comfortable with Sarah being the star of the show and with the pay disparity.
Okay, here's the reality. When HBO decided to do Sex and the City, there was no HBO. You understand? There was the fights. We came on, then Sopranos came on in the winter. So Sarah Jessica Parker was a movie star. No movie stars were doing TV. So you can imagine the deal that Kevin Huvane got for Sarah Jessica Parker to go star in a show with the word sex on a fights channel. All right, start there. There was no comparable anything. The show doesn't exist if Sarah Jessica Parker isn't the blonde star of this show. Okay? That's #1. So the first contract is unapproachable in any stratosphere. It doesn't matter. Legally, it can't ever be touched. Kim was not at the height of her career. Kristen was under her in terms of notability. And Cynthia was a theater actress. Their contracts reflected that stratus. As the show progressed, the characters, everybody grew. It became a family. Kristen and Cynthia and Sarah Jessica became one group. Kim never joined the triumvirate mentally. Kristen and Cynthia they went in the light. They became like those 2 ladies. They understood it was Sarah Jessica's name. Look at the posters. Kim fought and said, I'm everyone's favorite. And Sarah Jessica said, yeah, that's why the show worked. You were certain people's favorites. They loved you. Certain people loved Kristen and people liked Cynthia, but you were the favorite and that's why the show worked. That doesn't mean you're being punished. And everybody got escalated. Everybody moved as the movie went on, but the stratus was set. No one was ever going to touch that. Her name was contractually, legally, righteously the only name on the poster due to the fact she was a movie star in 1998 when the series started. And she did a leap to do a show about sex on the channel that did the fights. And it doesn't matter how popular you are, and I guess for Kim it didn't matter how much the raise became if there was never parody, but there never was going to be parody.
He also had high praise for Sarah Jessica Parker.
Show environment. She's phenomenal as a team player. She knew everybody's name. She loved building something together. We were a family. She's warm. Her door's open. I used to call her the star next door because she was really the neighbor girl in your neighborhood that you loved, but she could be the star as well.
His explanation on what happened between the second and third movie, here you go.
What do you think ultimately happened between the second and the third?
A revisionist history. People do things. They make stuff up depending on what story they want to tell themselves. All I know is that show was spectacular for everyone involved. It was a spectacular success. And you have to work very hard to make that Sex and the City story not be something that was good for you. And for some reason, Kim thinks something happened to her on that show that was not good for her.
The same month, sources from Kim's camp denied that Kim had not done the movie because of a salary dispute. Instead, the source blamed a bad script, which of course was written by Michael Patrick King, and pointed specifically to a storyline that involved Miranda's 14-year-old son, Brady, sending Samantha non-PG pics. For a few years, the drama died down, but then it was reignited again when the new spin-off show was announced. The new show would be called And Just Like That, and they would be moving forward without Kim Cattrall. Of course, fans were not happy with this, and they rallied around Kim and wanted her to return. In 2021, Chris Noth, who played Big, spoke to The Guardian, quote, "I have to tell you, I have absolutely no idea what Kim's thinking is or her emotions. I do know that I'm very close with Sarah Jessica, and Kim's description of her didn't even come close. I just don't like to see anyone talking down about Sarah Jessica because she's a target and people can be nasty. I feel very protective of her, and I was not happy about that." End quote. The new show, And Just Like That, premiered on December 9th, 2021, with Samantha Jones moving away and only communicating with Carrie via text message. And while the show was airing, Kim threw a little bit of shade towards their way by liking some comments that were trashing the show. A new little player in the drama also entered the fray, costumer Patricia Field, who was very close to Kim Cattrall. She dressed the ladies on the original series and the movies, but did not work on the new show. She was asked about the new costumer Mary Rogers, and she answered, quote, "I like some of it. I don't like all of it. But I know what Molly's dealing with. I know those gals. Sarah Jessica thinks she knows everything, and she does. Cynthia Nixon thinks she knows everything, and she doesn't. Even today, when I speak with Molly, it's about Cynthia. I say, I remember what you are going through." Ouch. So there's a little bit of a Patricia Field versus Cynthia Nixon moment there. In February 2022, Variety spoke to Michael Patrick King, the showrunner, and he confirmed they didn't ask him back. Quote, "Magically thinking it's great to have Samantha. I have no realistic expectations of Kim Cattrall ever appearing again." End quote. Variety also asked Sarah Jessica Parker if she would be okay with Kim coming back, with Sarah replying, quote, "I don't think I would, because I think there's just too much public history of feelings on her part that she's shared." End quote. Variety, being messy, informed Kim of Sarah Jessica Parker's comments in March. Interviewer: "Sarah Jessica has said that if you decide to play Samantha again, she wouldn't be okay with that. Did that hurt your feelings?" Kim: "I don't think I read it." Interviewer: "She said that there was too much that had happened publicly between the two of you." Kim: "Well, it would never happen anyway, so nobody has to worry about that." Interviewer: "Have you watched And Just Like That?" Kim: "I certainly heard about it, and I've come to the conclusion that really the greatest compliment I could have as an actor is to be missed." The Variety interviewer ended the interview by asking, "So it's a definite no?" To which Kim responded, quote, "That's a no. It's powerful to say no." So this is why it was a shock to find out recently that Kim would be making a cameo on season 2 of And Just Like That. It is reported that Kim only agreed to shoot a small scene for the show, Solo, where she speaks on the phone inside the car, and would only do it if Sarah Jessica Parker and Michael Patrick King were not on set. In addition, she stipulated that she would be dressed by the show's former costumer, Patricia Field. It is reported that even the crew had no knowledge that they would be working with Kim that day. So did Kim pull the ultimate power move by deciding to do this show now after saying no so many times? Did she do it because she knew that Sarah Jessica Parker was against it now? That we don't know, but we can imagine that she was paid very, very, very well for this cameo. And Just Like That season 2 will debut on June 22nd, 2023, and who knows what other drama that will lead to. But for now, that's where the beef lies, so until then, rest in peace.